So once again, a very good afternoon to one and all. Thank you all for joining us. And my name is Hannah, and it's my honor to welcome you all to this very insightful session titled Indigenous Wisdom and Approaches to Disaster Preparedness, a glimpse from Assam. So today we embark on a journey to explore the rich knowledge of like indigenous knowledge and time-tested approaches communities in Assam employ in the face of disasters. With a aim to compile and document the indigenous DRR practices across India, we Speed India, in collaboration with IAGs and organizations, have been conducting sessions. The past month, we had conducted one similar session with some speakers from Kerala and to understand some of the indigenous practices they have been doing in their communities. I'm more than thrilled for today's session to know and to learn more about more from a perspective of Assam. We all know that it has a very diverse cultural heritage and geographical complexities have long been an example of resilience in the face of natural calamities. So in this session, we will delve into the wisdom passed down through the generations, discover unique strategies that each communities employ and also learn how the symbiotic relationships that they maintain with the environment. So once again, I would like to welcome all of you to join us with today's journey and welcome all of you to the session. To initiate the session, to give you all an introduction and to set the context, I'd like to welcome the main collaborator for this session. I would like to welcome Mr. Lohan Goswami, sir, who is the Director of Rural Volunteer Center. He is an experienced professional in disaster management as Chief Functionary of the Volunteer Center since 2014. His leadership has positioned RVZ as a catalyst for transformative change. Emphasizing anticipatory planning, Mr. Goswami facilitates community resilience to disasters and climate change, aligning actions with the Sustainable Development Goals. Commitment to risk-informed development is evident in pioneering initiatives such as shock responsive Goan development plans with a special focus on vulnerable groups. Under his stewardship, RVZ has collaborated with esteemed entities like European Commissions, UN agencies, and international NGOs for innovative models and impactful contributions to DM plans. Underscores a relentless dedication to building sustainable and resilient communities. Sir, firstly, a big thank you for joining us in organizing this session and helping us plan this session. I would like to welcome you to give us a context about the topic that we are presenting today.
Thank you, Hanaji. To start with, at first I would like to thank Spare India, Spare Academy, and all the well wishes, particularly to all the speakers, as well as the moderators. Also, of course, the moderator is also one of the prominent speakers in this session. This thanks is for continuing discuss on indigenous wisdom and approaches to disaster preparedness, and it is a glimpse from Assam. So it is very nice to see that in this platform today we have government representatives, academicians, representatives for INGOs, NNGOs, CSOs, as well as students, as well as are quite enriched to contribute towards this discussion. Everyone to this panel this discussions. So some of the facts that we should acknowledge that although the state of Assam is vulnerable to multiple disasters, of which floods, flash floods, erosion are perennial, but still comparatively we see the numbers of human and cattle death, injuries, starvation deaths, starvation days, followed by like communication bottlenecks, and many more to it, are less in comparison to the vulnerability of the states. So there are multiple vulnerabilities, of which the floods, flash floods, and then erosions, and recently storms, then lightning. All these are in an increasing trend because of climate change or other local factors. But it is nice to see that the comparatively the loss of lives, whether it is human lives or cattle life, injuries, starvation deaths, communication bottlenecks, all these are very less in comparison to many other regions of the globe or of the nation. And we believe that one of its reasons behind it, or one of the backbone of because of this, is the traditional skills embedded in the communities for years. So if we now also see the, as Hannah has when introduced RBC or me has said that rigs in from GPTP or somewhere, this kinds of thing. So uh, when we facilitate sessions, we know every time we feel that the approach that we are adopting today are in some form it was existed in the communities, and so many have already been some of them been documented, and we can say the mainstream in the development approaches, but still so many are left out with the community. When I was first contacted for a collaboration, for this collaboration, then it actually I was much impressed, because for a long time, many of us who are part of this discussion today also were discussing about documenting the indigenous good practices on disaster preparedness or DRR of Assam. And we every time when we talk about it, we take it seriously from another aspect also, that is the demographic dividend. We know that the people to document the good practices, traditional good practices, we need the elder communities much more. So from that, every time we are thinking, but for one reason or other, till date, this documentation has not happened comprehensively as well as collectively. Although also we believe that this 1 hour is not at all justifiable to cover up much so far good practices across tens of indigenous communities inhabiting in Assam. Although Assam is geographically so much divided, we have tens of indigenous communities have their own practices. So it will be not be possible to cover all this in this 1 hour. But we believe that the sharing from the team speakers, followed by the active participants, by STEAM participants, will set a platform, will definitely set a platform to move ahead. With this, I conclude my context without more, without waiting for more time. I would like to request Fair India Sphere Academy to move ahead with the sessions, and in between everyone will, whereas the this the our speakers will when they will deliver, then definitely there will be a question answer sessions, which could be made more effective by the more active participation by the other participation. With this, I want to end up here, and will and I'm conveying my hearty thanks to all for their cooperation, and looking forward for a meaningful discussion with a definite go ahead plan of action. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Louis sir. I would like to move on to the second part of our session today, which is the panel discussion. So before getting into it, I would like to briefly introduce the speakers. I can also put up their bios during the chat box, like while they speak, I can paste it in the chat box so that we save time. So very quickly going to the speakers. First, we have Dr. Manoj Datta, who is Assistant Professor, Center for Social Studies from the River University. Dr. Manoj hails from a remote flood-affected village in Lakukhana, situated in Lakhimpur district of Assam. During the environment prone to frequent and significant floods, he gained first-hand experience of the profound impacts these disasters have on vulnerable members of the community. exposure has inspired him to pursue the career as a professional social worker. We welcome you, Dr. Manoj. Moving on, we have Dr. Anil Kumar Pegu. He is a distinguished secretary officer, brings a wealth of experience to the development sector. His illustrious career includes serving as an assistant general secretary and OSD at MAK, showcasing leadership and administrative powers. The Pegu has also held the position of Senior Program Manager at Center for Microfinance and Livelihood and Initiative of Startup Trust, and also former Program Coordinator at MKSD Project, which is a pioneering initiative in the Northeast region. Thank you so much, Dr. Pegu, for joining us. We welcome you to the session. Moving on, we have Mr. Kamarul Zaman, who is the Senior Program Officer at CETRA. He is an accomplished professional with experience spanning 15 years in the development sector, currently holding the position of a senior program manager, etc. His dedicated focus is on leading initiatives that address critical areas such as protection of civil rights, disaster management, and mental health. Thank you so much for joining, Mr. Cameron. Moving on, we have Ms. Mandira. She is a professional with a diverse background in anthropology. She holds a master's degree in anthropology from Delhi University, where she developed a keen interest in gender studies, climate change, social and development studies, disaster management, and knowledge management. She is currently serving as a project officer for knowledge management and climate change in the Assam State Disaster Management Authority. Thank you so much for joining, Ms. Mandira. We look forward to hearing from you. At last, we have a moderator for the session, Ms. Inakshi Datta, who is the director of the Institute of Development Action and chairperson of IEG Assam. Ms. Inakshi is a dynamic leader driving an impactful change in the development. She's also associated with the Action Northeast Trust. She directs efforts at grassroots and regional levels, focusing on empowering women and girls. Capacity building Mitata strengthens women and girls while fostering women-friendly ecosystems. Simultaneously, as a chairperson of Foundational for Social Transformation, she empowers Northeast India, advocating for justice, peace, and gender equity. Thank you so much for joining all of our sessions. To all of our speakers, I would like to quickly hand it over to Ms. Inakshi ma'am to take on the floor.
I'll just
Inakshi ma'am.
am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now.
Before we start, I would just like to, I see Dr. Pegu struggling with his audio and he's unable to hear us. I think he needs to log in again because I'm not seeing the microphone thing on his
All right,
screen.
I'll call him and I'll...
Okay, thank you. Welcome once again to everyone. And thank you, Hannah, for the wonderful introduction of all the panelists and myself. So as everyone has the agenda today, we are going to talk about indigenous practices, particularly in Assam. As we all know, that Assam is a region which is having a lot of disaster and prone to a lot of disasters of different kinds. And the community has always been coping with this for decades and centuries. And thus, our communities, which are also very diverse, have a lot of knowledge. So we would like to hear from all the panelists on their perspectives on this. As the agenda goes, we will first hear from Dr. Manju Datta on being an academician and being from the district of Dibrugarh, Thukwakhana. and practicing and teaching social work, we would really like to understand from him in terms of the indigenous communities, how can our responses and how can we make, apart from the different examples that he can cite of indigenous knowledge, how does he think that we can be more inclusive in our work during disasters particularly, and respect indigenous communities and knowledge in our work. So over to you, Mr. Datta. We'd like to hear from you, Dr.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So, based on my little knowledge and experience, I'd like to share a few words on indigenous wisdom and approaches to disaster preparedness, especially in the context of Assam. So, I'm quite sure that all the persons who are attending this session are quite experienced and have idea about indigenous knowledge system. But just to refresh your memory, I'm just incorporating, I'm taking 1 minute to share the idea of indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge is the sum total of knowledge and skills which people in a particular geographical area possesses and which enables them to get the most out of their natural environment. Such knowledge and skills are passed down from previous generations. The passed on knowledge and skills are then adapted and added to by the new generation in a constant adjustment to changing circumstances and environmental conditions. They in turn pass on the body of knowledge intact to the next generation in an effort to provide them with survival strategies. Indigenous knowledge system, on the other hand, is a body of knowledge of the indigenous people of particular geographical area where they have survived for a long time. There are certain characteristics of the indigenous knowledge. It is generated within the communities. It is oral in nature. It is not systematically documented. It is location and culture specific. It forms the basis of decision making on survival strategies. It concerns critical issues of human and animal life, and it is dynamic and based on innovation, adoption, and experimentation. So the unique geoclimatic condition of the region makes Assam and the entire northeast region of India very prone to natural disasters like flood, erosion, earthquake, and landslides. The state of Assam experiences perennial flood, riverbank erosion, landslides, and other environmental catastrophes. We all know that Assam is a land of different ethnic groups. There are people living on the riverbanks, there are communities living on the shore areas, whereas there are tribal groups living in the hills, as well as there are people living in the plain areas. So all the group of people have their own traditions and belief system of dealing with different disasters. So here I am sharing a few common traditional wisdoms and beliefs to forecast rain and flood by the communities of Assam. The first example, on the eve of Magh Bihu, that is the harvesting festival, the last day of the Assamese lunar calendar, if the cattle are reluctant to move out from their shed in the morning, it indicates an impending flood. Secondly, in the morning of Goro Bihu, that is the New Year festival, if the cattle behave abnormally and frenetically when they are brought for birth, it is believed that the flood is ahead. The howling of fox can be of two types. When the fox howls irritably at higher place, it indicates a forthcoming prolonged dry season, and when it howls from a low-lying location, it indicates flood. Uninterrupted frog calls imply heavy showers and possible flooding. If the ants shift their shelter to higher places with their eggs and foodstuff, it indicates a definite forthcoming flood. Lastly, flowering of the mango tree indicates impending flood, whereas flowering of the jackfruit implies good productivity of paddy and soil. In Assamese, it's popularly called as Ame Ban Kothale Dhan. So these are some of the common predictions that the communities use to predict flood and rain in Assam. So we all know that the missing community of Assam, basically they live on the banks of the river. So here I would like to share a few examples of the missing community. The missing community and indigenous community is in India's northeast region that has lived close to the river for centuries, has turned into architectural innovations to adapt to the annual flood hazards and reduce disaster risks. Missing community has adapted to flood better than many other communities of Assam. This is a classic example of the housing pattern of the missing people. So it's called Sanghar, so which prevents them to, which helps them to deal with the flood. It's generally 6 to 8 feet high, and it helps them to prepare well for the flood. This is the inside of a sanghar, which they use for the storage of food grains and other products. This is not a sanghar. It looks like a sanghar, but this is actually a granary of the non-missing communities. Now, on the basis of the examples that I have shared about the housing pattern of the missing community, you might be thinking, if the missing community can deal with flood in a better way through that housing pattern, so why not other communities? So there comes the cultural issues. So because the other people, the non-missing people, don't adopt that housing pattern, don't want to adopt that housing pattern because they don't consider it as their own, and they consider it as the housing pattern of the missing people. So that's why they don't, generally people don't try to change their housing pattern. And we have seen during flood, this is a typical model of the granary of the Assamese people. During flood, the non-missing people, they use their granary to stay. It's like a sanghar. So this is how the non-missing people used to deal with the flood during this one. These are in this slides, I'm showing a few boats, because generally the people in the flood affected area, they try to own a boat of their own because it is very much essential for them. But it's not possible for all the families to have a boat of their own because of their poor economic conditions. And as a result, people from poor communities, poor families, or poor economic backgrounds need to depend on the rafts that are made by using banana and this one, banana tree and bamboo. And it's not like that they only use it for their own household use. They use these resources for the benefit of the community people. This is an example of how they have been managing or preparing for the flood. Showing a tube well, and you have seen that they have been increasing the height of the tube well in order to get water during the flood season. Through these slides, I'm showing how they are managing or trying to grow their vegetables. They are not growing their vegetables on the land, over the land, and they are doing it over the sanghar using some cement bags and plastic bags so that they can be prepared for the flood season. This is a classic example of how the community people have been mixing their traditional knowledge as well as modern technology. This is a rice mill over a sanghar. So this is a classic example of their traditional knowledge as well as modern knowledge. In this slide, I am showing a model of a PMAY house, because it's in line with the sanghar. It's look like a sanghar. Actually, the government has adopted the sanghar model for the PMAY scheme for the missing people. And through this example, actually, I want to say that this is very, very important to incorporate the traditional knowledge and traditional belief system in the policy making process of the government, because until and unless we don't use their traditional knowledge and traditional beliefs, traditional lifestyles into consideration, it's not, the community people don't develop the ownership over these decisions and resources, and it becomes very difficult to deal with these disasters. So this model can also, this is just an example, it can also be applied in some other cases, like in case of building, school building, and such other government buildings. So since that I'm getting only a few minutes and we have only 1 hour to discuss the whole topic, it's a big topic. There are so many issues to discuss. So I am winding up my presentation here. In future, if anyone is interested to ask questions, then I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Datta. I think it was a very comprehensive, but yet very insightful with all the pictures that you have gathered. I think that really talks a lot about the research and the data that you have, especially some of the small things of how the animals are indicators of early warning is really very, very helpful. We'll move on and we will take the questions. So I will request everyone to please note down your questions and we will take the questions all together at the end. Is that okay, Hena, or would you want sessions in between?
No, ma'am, it's okay. We can take it at the end too.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on to the next speaker, who is Dr. Anil Kumar Pegu. He has been associated with the Missing Autonomous Council, and apart from knowing the fact that, as the previous speaker spoke, that Missing tribe is one of the tribes which has the most amount of being a riverine community, the knowledge of coping practices. We will really like to listen to him on that, and also in terms of what should be the role of NGOs and government and other agencies of coming together and working. Dr. Pegu.
Thank you, madam. Hello and good afternoon to everyone. With special regards to our esteemed moderator, Madam Enakshi Datta, Madam, and Director Idea. Today, I want to share my experience related to my communities, communities of practice and habits. Already, Manus Datta has shared a lot of things in housing patterns and other things for missing community. Thank you, Datta. It's nice to actually hear from you for about our communities. Then I will share some little I will add only here. Manoj has already delivered a lot of things regarding our communities. I will add some points. Especially, I will be focusing on 3 aspects. This is disaster resilience for wild animals, and flood, definitely flood management and other related insight. It is worth noting that flood are our primary disaster concern in Assam. Then also our missing peoples, you know that we are residing in a most flood-prone areas in Assam. So I would like to share some flood religions, flood management things also. Sorry, I am in a traveling in a train. Is it audible for you?
Yes,
Madam?
yes, we can see you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yes, that missing communities. It's various indigenous practices for disaster mitigation in Assam. Yes, Manoj rightly said that this housing pattern is very regard. Housing house is high platform. Then, as Manoj has said that, he nicely said that regarding flood mitigation things. Other flood, I would like to share here with this our Shanghar. It is called Shanghar. It is very it is called it's a wildlife protected house. You know, once elephants, usually our houses are built in a riverside or somewhere in a nearby jungle. Then once elephants come to attack our house, then it is as Manoj has showed that fixers. He have I think seen that there are a lot of protruded bamboos and sticks on the missing house. You see that once elephants try to attack the house, then what's happened? That bamboo sticks are preventing to what called preventing destroy the house structure. Then once how elephants attack the houses. Then once by its forehead, or other it's kicking by its legs. In missing house, it's constructed such like that. It in ground level you will find nothing. Once it's kicked by this elephant's leg, then you will find nothing, or only some there. You will think also what called pushed by its protruded bamboo stick will what called making difficult structure. This is one kind of very we would say that maybe it is scientific knowledge they have used our indigenous people earlier, then it is continued. Then yes, he has said, Manoj has said that it is definitely as a Sangha raised platform, it must be protected from the flood water and as well. Then another illustration of the missing communities practice is the Khuti situated in a such a highland platform in a Sapori. Sapori means the river island. Typically situated on an elevated land, then serve the purpose of safeguarding our animals, our the animals owners, cattle owners. Hello,
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Our cattle owners actually collectively keep their cattle in that khutis. The khutis are the one kind of very useful what call system for our cattle owners. As you know that this khutis is in a high land platform. Then our institution like government institution like Missing Autonomous Council are adopting this what called highland platform, and now they have been constructing highland platform for cattle owner in the flat-front regions, which is evolving from the traditional Khuti system. This is reflect that application of indigenous knowledge in addressing challenging like flooding. This one kind of Khuti system is very useful, and then it's also we can adopt this system as we are in the we can make for the benefit of our cattle owners. Then in other points was on the Bhur system. Already he has showed, Manoj has showed that my point was also same, that the Bhur made from banana trees for transportation, easily available, and is simple to fashion into a floating device that remaining a flat for 2 to 3 months in water, which is serving effectively coping system during the flood. This work we can just say that it is one kind of what kind of disaster mitigation system coping mechanism. Then other thing, the missing community uses wooden rafts, that's ollong, which is called ollong, country boats. This is in emergency case in a flood season, duration of flood season, the people can use easily. Once if it is required, then they what called carry peoples, or they carry their luggages to relief camp. Also, it is very useful that along or its country boat. This is that missing peoples can themselves know how to build, how to make a ollung, or now it is Assamese called now, and then traditionally. Then as it is that's common, missing children residing in some of the most platform areas, as you know, then missing that learn to that missing guys, missing young people a very young age in river or in the flood water. Remarkably, you know, despite the challenging conditions, there are rarely reports of missing people losing their lives in a flood. This is very interesting. This resilience stems from their understanding that swimming is essential for survival in an environment where flooding occur for 4 to 5 months easier in missing areas. It is one kind of exemplifies a notable disaster resilience practice within the missing community. I believe like that. Then just one point only. So it is simple. I would like to conclude here with Furthermore, this indigenous people possess the knowledge of preparing namsing. What is namsing? You know, this is nothing but the dry fish for consumption during the lean period, ensuring a protein source when it is needed. This is namsing. But then a lot of things are there already. Manoj has covered. Then I would just like to add this much only. Then NGO. What is the NGO role maybe in this sector? Then I would say I would just like to add with this. In this scenario, NGO can play a crucial role in through participatory research or method. Then, upon successful testing, facilitates in practice. Then this must thank you, and thank you for this everything.
Dr. Pegu, just at the end, I'd just like to summarize what you said in the end because your voice was breaking. So the NGO's role, can you reiterate that part?
If it is okay. Yes, this much I have. I would like to add only.
So you're
Then
saying the
this,
NGO's
if
role is to do
somebody asks something,
participatory
then we can.
research and
Yes, definitely. The
sure.
NGO can do this. Knowledge and rural innovations are there. Definitely, NGO can actually go for a research and then yes, for the validation and then for testing and then lastly we can disseminate the knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Pegu. Thank you for
Thank you, ma'am.
the brief but yet very knowledgeable, in-depth things. And for me also, this was a new learning of the missing house adaptation for floods was always known and is very popular, but the fact that it also protects from
wild elephant.
Wild elephant is new learning for me today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So we'll move on, and we have a few questions in the chat box. We can keep adding that, and we will take the questions at the end. We'll move on to the next speaker, who is Mr. Kamraju Jaman Haq, who has been working in the DRR work, and Satro has been a very old organization working in DRR. So we'd like to hear from him in terms of the challenges in integrating the perspective of indigenous knowledge into the mainstream DRR work or even disaster response. So what in disaster management strategies can we integrate, and what are the challenges in integrating indigenous knowledge and traditional practices? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. I'm given to speak on first examples of traditional knowledge that have proven effective in disaster resilience, and secondly, challenges in integrating indigenous perspective into mainstream disaster management strategies. Firstly, let me share with you some compelling examples of traditional knowledge that have proven to be effective in disaster resilience in our area. Number one, nutrition as a resilience strategy. In the face of frequent floods, communities showcase their ingenuity by planting vegetables in bags. This innovative technique allows them to raise the vegetables above floodwaters, ensuring a sustainable source of nutrition for the family during and after the disaster or after the flood. It's a practical approach to combat the common nutritional scarcity that often follows a flood. Secondly, fire sticks and portable chulas, like cooking stove. The people of flood-prone areas in Assam are well prepared with fire sticks made from cow dung, serving as a reliable source of cooking fuel during disaster. Additionally, the creation of portable cooking stoves, locally known as Shula, showcases the community's foresight, enabling them to carry these essential tools wherever they seek shelter, ensuring their ability to cook even in challenging circumstances. Thirdly, cattle rearing and raised platform. Cattle rearing is an important source of livelihood for the people, for most of the people of flood-prone areas. To protect these valuable assets, communities contribute to constructing raised platform for their cattle within the community. This is not only safeguards their source of income, but also ensure the well-being of animals during floods. Fourthly, elevated homes. Understanding the imminent threat of sudden floods, indigenous communities in Assam raise the platform of their homes. These preventive measures mitigates the immediate impact of flooding, offering a buffer that helps safeguard lives and property. Fifthly, it's very interesting, poultry farming cycle. Women who are often key contributors to household resilience engage in poultry farming. They strategically purchase chicks during August, September after the flood season. They sell them in April, just before the onset of floods. This cyclical approach not only ensure a sustainable income, but also provides financial resources that prove invaluable during and after a flood. So, while these examples showcase the resilience established in traditional knowledge, it is essential to acknowledge the challenges faced in integrating these indigenous perspectives into mainstream disaster management strategies. The challenges I will speak later at the end. So, secondly, the early warning system deeply rooted in the cultural fabric of Assam. The Assamese people, in their wisdom, have developed unique and time-tested methods of early warning, seamlessly integrated with their traditional festival and natural environment. Mark Bihu and cattle behavior. This point actually was touched by Dr. Manoj Datta. The festival of Mark Bihu holds immense cultural significance for the Assamese people, and Mark Bihu marks the end of the harvest season in mid-January. During this time, farmers exhibit a keen understanding of their surroundings. In the early morning on first day of Magh Bihu, farmers observe the behavior of their cows. If the cows are standing, it is interpreted as a warning of floods in that year. Conversely, if the cows are found sleeping, it is taken as a reassuring sign that there won't be a flood. This keen observation of animal behavior serves as a natural and intuitive early warning system for the community. Secondly, mosquito and fly population as indicators. Another early warning indicator follows Magh Bihu. The common people keenly observe the population of mosquitoes and flies. A significant increase in their numbers is seen as a potential warning to heavy floods in the year. The observation reflects a deep connection between the local ecosystem, uh, the agricultural calendar, providing valuable insight into potential flood risk. Thirdly, honeybees and directional flight. The, the observation of honeybees adds another dimension to Assam's early warning practices. If honeybees are observed flying towards the east, it is interpreted as a sign that there are chances of flooding in that area. This natural indicator, rooted in the behavior of local wildlife, offers an additional layer of understanding that complements the community's existing knowledge. And fourthly, it is also very interesting that in our place, there is a bird locally called kurua. The kurua bird, once a significant presence in the hills, plays a crucial role in predicting flood pattern. If after Magh Bihu, the kurua birds descends from the hills to the plains and and sings with a sweet voice, it is seen as a early warning of heavy flood in the year. But very sadly, the existence of this bird is now uncertain, perhaps endangered or extinct, because we haven't seen this for at least for last 5 to 6 years, highlighting the this highlights the climate change and fragile nature of the ecosystem. In reflecting on these indigenous early warning practices, it is crucial to acknowledge the cultural significance of these rituals and observations. These practices not only serve as a practical guide for disaster preparedness, but also highlights the deep connection between the community and their natural environment. Now, I'll speak a little on challenges in integration. Number one, limited recognition. One of the primary challenges lies in the limited recognition of indigenous knowledge within mainstream disaster management framework. Often these traditional practices are viewed as superstitious, leading to a lack of inclusion in official strategies. Bridging the gap between traditional wisdom and scientific validation is essential for mainstream acceptance. Secondly, communication gap. Indigenous communities face challenges in effectively communicating their traditional knowledge to external agencies and decision makers. Bridging the communication gap is crucial to ensuring that these valuable insights are not overlooked or misunderstood. Thirdly, technological disparities. Modern disaster management often relies on advanced technological systems for early warning and response. Integrating traditional practices which may not align with or utilize modern technologies poses a challenge. Balancing the benefits of technological advancement with the time-tested wisdom of indigenous communities is essential for comprehensive and inclusive approach. Fourthly, shifting environmental dynamics. Rapid environmental changes, including climate change and habitat loss, pose a threat to the reliability of traditional indicators. For instance, the endangered status of extinction of species like the kurua bird, which I talked about, undermines its role as a reliable early warning signal. Adopting traditional practices to evolving environmental dynamics requires a flexible and adaptive approach. Policy barriers. Existing policies and framework may not always align with the dynamic and context-specific nature of indigenous practices. Overcoming these policy barriers requires a concerted effort to adopt and integrate traditional knowledge into broader disaster management strategies. Documentation and preservation. Lastly, as indigenous practices evolve over generation, there is a risk of losing traditional knowledge if not adequately documented and preserved. Efforts to integrate these practices should include measures to safeguard and promote the preservation of traditional wisdom for future generations. So, in conclusion, as we strive for more resilient and harmonious disaster risk reduction methods, it is imperative that we not only recognize the effectiveness of indigenous wisdom, but actively work towards its integration into mainstream practices. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the way you have spoken of some of the very unique traditional knowledge is really very, very insightful and would benefit a lot of the participants and also the challenges the way you have listed. Thank you so much for putting those together for all of our knowledge. So after Mr. Hawk, now we would move on to our last speaker. So I'll request Mandira Buragohai from ASDMA, Assam State Disaster Management Authority, to, apart from talking about practices, to also talk to us about how could indigenous communities and the knowledge, the traditional knowledge, be integrated into strategies and policy level interventions and into the policy frameworks of the state. Over to you, Dr. Mandira. Oh.
She
Could
was
not be there.
facing some issues with internet, so she told me she's trying to join from a different device. Andrea ma'am, are you here already, or I doubt she is here, ma'am. Shall we go ahead with the questions and then
Yes,
if
yes,
we
I
will,
think,
we can-
yeah, then we can get back to her.
Yes.
So yeah, so we'll open for questions now. And once Mandira joins, we can hear her. So there was one question from Mr. Biswas in the chat box where he has asked about, he works in the Sundarbans, and he has written that I work in the Sundarbans. West Bengal is vulnerable to cyclones, floods, and tidal surges. Human settlement here is less than 200 years. What are effective flotation devices which can be improvised? So any of the speakers, we heard a little about flotation devices from Mr. Pegu, who talked about the banana, and Mr. Datta also has spoken about the banana raft as floating devices, and the country boats, which is a traditionally made boat by the communities, riverine communities in Assam. So these are certain floating devices. Anyone else wants to add something? It could be also from the participants. If
Can I speak?
sure.
Yeah, this is Dr. Aniruddha De. I'm basically from West Bengal, but I am now attending from Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay.
So I'm from one organization called Professional Institute for Development and Socio-Environmental Management, PRISM. I have two things. One is that first I need to answer your question, and the participant who has asked what are the solutions. And second, I have one question, so I will come that way. Number one is that if you see that in RVC, this Rural Volunteer Center, from there Louis had joined. So I really came late, so I didn't know, I don't know what Louis has already said. But RVC once, they made one country boat kind of a thing with wasted single-use plastic bottles. And that single-use plastic bottles, so we have tried in Sundarban also, because we have been actually preparing eco bricks. So plastic bottles, and we are inserting single-use plastic inside the plastic bottles and then close it. So this way, we are ensuring domestic level segregation. We are ensuring that plastic wastes should not spoil the environment. And after making so many eco bricks, so then we tie up and we made rafts. So banana raft, these are good. These are traditionally been practiced when plastics are not there since then. But you cannot use them for more than 3 days or 4 days kind of a thing, because it has some risks. This is one thing. And I can request the person who has written, who said that he's from Sundarban, so I can request him to just check in Shamsher Nagar. So in Shamsher Nagar, the children, they made that raft with eco bricks. So this is one. Number two, This is my observation that what the last speaker, he had said, he talked about traditional knowledge. But to me, traditional knowledge is a product, is not a process. So is it decaying? I mean, there are lots of challenges he has said. He has in his presentation, he has mentioned. But my point is that is it decaying? If we are not talking about system is always evolving. So is it evolving? Maybe there are some people, they have not accepted, some value additions are there. There are lots of changes might have happened. But my point is that whether it is a traditional knowledge or it's a traditional knowledge system, if it is a traditional knowledge system, then we can think how it is evolving, whether there is any value addition, whether it is being taken into account by the communities themselves, by the researchers themselves, by the people in that area. So thank you. That's what actually I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So the question is whether traditional knowledge is the product, or is it a system that can be value added? Before we the panelists respond to this, let us take one more question. I saw Karina Bordeloy had her hand up. So after these two questions, we'll open it for the panelists. Karina, kindly speak up.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Actually, my question is to Mr. Kamaru's Haq. I'll just quickly introduce myself first. So I'm from a non-profit called Project Defy. We are based out of Bangalore. So I'm currently staying at a village in Barpeta. So we have a project on disaster preparedness. So because floods are a perennial problem, so we are mainly trying to work on the various areas of breakdown that happens in the event of a flood. Going beyond the usual like loss of life and things like that, because there's a huge range of problems that happen, like access to food, access to potable drinking water, access to proper health care. So we are working on these various areas of breakdown. So, Mr. Huck, you had mentioned a few, like, I don't know which community in particular you were talking about, but from my understanding, so I have visited a few flood-prone communities in Assam, and yeah, I would say the missing community, the way they handle preparedness is very, very laudable. Like in terms of, especially even like they even practice things like food preservation, where they smoke and dry fish, and which comes into use in the event of a flood. But when I visited other communities in Assam, like in the entire concept of preparedness is a very, very privileged thing, because a lot of times people do not have the money and the resources to do so. So I just so you had mentioned that like people like grow vegetables in bags. If I'm not wrong, Mr. Huck, you had mentioned that. I just wanted to know if there are uh, uh, any other indigenous or traditional methods that you have seen, like like if like in the context of like food preservation, food storage, because that is one thing that we are really trying to work on.
Thank you. So maybe I will request Mr. Datta to speak about what Mr. Day had asked on traditional knowledge being a product or a system, and then maybe Mr. Huck can respond to Karina's queries. Dr. Datta, would you like to respond? Dr. Datta?
Maybe he has left, or maybe there are
Okay.
some network issues.
I think, yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
I have. It is not particularly to Mr. Datta. I
Sure.
have raised this question to all,
Yeah.
so that
Anyone
we
can.
all need to understand that
Yeah.
how should we see traditional knowledge system?
Sure.
Is should we look it at a practice as a process, or should we look it at a product? So thank you.
Yeah. Surely. So it is a reflective question which I think each one of us needs to think about. But since most of the panelists are not being able to respond, Mr. Pegu is on the train. But so maybe we can just address the question Karina had asked to Mr. Haq, and then we will move on to listen to Mandira G, who has been able to join. Or she will not be able to join. So, okay.
Yeah. Apart from this, vegetables grows in the bag. I am from Dharan district, so we basically works in char areas. Those communities also practices to preserve fish like the missing communities preserve. As Dr. Peku said about Namsing, here they call this sutki mash. So this is one, and then they knows the like flooding month, so they preserve some dry rations also. So yeah, these are the practices the community adopted. Yeah.
Thank you. We had one more question on the chat on the elephant rampage. So this is someone from Rekha Khalko, who has asked from Jharkhand, who has asked a question on especially during agriculture season, the elephants come into the villages in search of food. Then they trample the crops, and sometimes the villagers are also attacked. Would like to know from the panelists how this is managed in Assam. Any suggestions? This is open to the panelists or any participant who would like to respond to this question.
Hello, can I respond, madam?
Sure.
In this case, actually, Missing Autonomous Council has adopted some of the systems. It may be system, not products. That is called electric wire fencing. Is Missing Autonomous Council is what called construct a lot of in the Sapori area, in the Sipsagar area, in Sipsagar Bell, where cultivations are going on, especially in the Rabi crops. Then Kobe, other potatoes, seasons are there. Then we have constructed that huge number of that called fencing, electric fencing, that kind of one where will be there in around. Then also the Goru Khuti is also protected by this. This is a very effective mechanism. Then it is run by only the solar system also, solar system and batteries. Then it is very easily actually protect these elephants. Then another points I would like to respond whether this traditional practice or knowledge is system or products. Somewhere, if you see that somewhere it is definitely products. Then somewhere another part you will see that it is not a product; it is maybe system or habits. This kind of response I would like. Then because so Monu says also shows that missing household system, that construction pattern is maybe it is a product. Then some habits, some cultural things are there that maybe becomes a practices. That's only. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then another one point I left. I forgot to left. This is one in flood season. Missing Autonomous Council. One of the place. This is close to RBC. My Louis might know that we have constructed floating bridge from that the bituminous drums are there, from joining these drums together. It's long. It is come in the newspapers and news highlighted by this news channel also many times. It is in Ujoni Shishi Tongani, what called Louis must know. Then we have constructed a lot of 3-4 numbers of floating bridge. This immediately could be constructed. This joined by the tar and the bamboos. Then we can cross the rivers for kettles and human drinks. It was also one what I have just remembered at points actually. I have added that only. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. We also have a few reflections from Arpita Das, who has done some work in Dhemaji and is asking as to, because she's done some documentation as to how can this consolidation of traditional knowledge happen as a way forward. And we also have Pinamoni Borua, who's talking about the stilt houses, how Missing Autonomous Council has adopted it and is promoting it. And, how can we as a fraternity or a community make awareness for wider adoption of this model? Any reflections from anyone on this?
Again, it is related to Missing Autonomous Council. Can I respond again, ma'am?
Sure.
Yeah. Missing Autonomous Council, as such, there is not promoting this or what called supporting for missing house construction, but Missing Autonomous Council has promoting the Murong Ghar. This is community house. This is Sanghar, as you know. Then we are this Missing Autonomous Council is actually trying to support every village as there should be one Murong Ghar. This is one. Then another thing is Sanghar is in Majuli area, a lot of the Riverain area. Governments are promoting these things. Sanghar they are constructing in they are in under their various projects are there. House rural poverty lines house are there. There actually the Sanghar is now actually their government has also approved. Thank you.
They have adopted that model.
Yes, adopted.
Yes, Mr. Ashish Biswas, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Hi, everyone. See, about the elephants, I know for a fact that they had a major elephant problem in Botswana of elephants raiding crops. So what they did was that through an Indian whom I personally know, he sent out a lot of these bhut jolokias, which are native to Assam, and they sort of started growing that. And that stopped the elephant menace. In fact, even in Bankura district in West Bengal, they tried that. Now, what has happened, I know from Bankura NGOs that elephants have started taking newer routes, which means that certain other villages have now become far more vulnerable. So that is my input for about the elephant thing. Yeah.
Yeah, with the due foundation of the Anaxi Baido, I will also like to add on what Asishda has said. Yeah, that is, we call it Bhujjolokia or the king chili. It has been taken to practice in some parts of Dhemaji also. It is a very initial panchayat called Nilo. Actually, the community now believes that because of deforestation and other things, the elephant corridors that are traditional elephant corridors. But this elephants when used to come that way. So in Majuli or in Dhemaji or other areas also, this solar fencing is going on. But this practice, how it is evolved, still it need to study that how people comes out with the this concept that this king chili diverge in this corridor or elephant road. But it is coming up actually. That is. Thank you, Asishda, for bringing this point.
No, but one little question. Is it working where you've applied it? Because the difference between Bankura and Assam is the amount of rainfall you get. Bankura receives little rainfall, you receive a lot of rainfall. So that will wash away the traces of the chili.
No. This the pocket that I am speaking is a Nilok area. We call it Nilok area. It is in a foothills of Arunachal Pradesh. So there is definitely.
That's Dhemaji.
Yes.
Are you talking? Yeah, I've been to Dhemaji. I mean, Ravindranath is a friend of mine.
Yeah. So I also talking about Hemaji in a particular area where the community is starting it only. Still the outcomes is still expected, still waiting the outcome, but they have yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have to leave. Thank you for this wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think there was a lot of very, very insightful information that we got in this 1 hour, and all the speakers have really shared a lot of knowledge. I think that is what is the most important fact of how do we capture these knowledge, these traditional knowledges, be it the product or a system, and how do we integrate it, how do we scientifically validate it and take this forward in our work, and also at a policy level, how does it get recognition and promotion, so that we are more many of the things that we've heard is only speaking that if we are listening and we are conscious about our environment, about the nature that we are a part and parcel of, and not totally depend on technology or things which are new, but also try and see what exists and connect to that, I think we would have a much better chance of disaster resilience and disaster risk management. With that, I think we can close the session for today. We have already overshot the time by 15 minutes. I would hand it back to Hena.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed a wonderful question. As you rightly summarized, we had a lot of different learnings, and many of this was like a new thing for me. I was hearing, and I was very surprised by how insects are involved. So that is something, it's the first time that I'm hearing. Even it was not, many of the things did come up in the session which was done in Kerala too, but then a lot of cultural differences and all. So we will be definitely reporting this. And since there was a lot of regional terms that was used, I would also request the support of our speakers in further, in as we develop the document. And one of the main aims session was to have more discussions on these topics and to bring these into the mainstream and try and involve it with the national, disaster management planning. Anyway, once again, I would like to thank all the speakers. I'm not naming everyone personally because of the time, but please take my sincere thanks for your valuable time in this session. I understand many of them are sorry about that. Yeah, so I understand many of them are in some emergencies, and thank you for still giving us time for the session, and also for the participants, and a special thanks to Louis sir and Rural Volunteer Center for helping us to connect with the speakers and organize the session very effectively. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, the session is recorded, and we'll be sharing the session details and also the PPTs that was used if the speakers allow. You will get it all in your email very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.